All right, so today we're looking at a script from a political commentary video. It's high energy, it's reacting to a Pam Bondi hearing on the Epstein files, to SAVE Act, a bunch of stuff.
A lot of stuff. A lot of horsepower in this one for sure.
Yeah, but our goal here is to take all that raw energy and focus it, make it a sharper, more persuasive critique without losing that unique.
Exactly. It's got the engine, but the steering is a little loose. So let's get into it.
So the first big thing that jumps out, and it's a structural issue, is just the cohesion. I mean, the pacing feels very disjointed because it's reacting live instead of, synthesizing for the audience.
Oh, that's the most glaring thing right out of the gate. Reading through it, I just got whiplash. The narrative jumps from the Dow hitting 50,000 to, eating babies conspiracies.
Right.
And then a hard pivot to the SAVE Act, and then right back to the stock market. It feels like you're watching someone scroll their feed in real time.
Which can work for a live stream. Maybe, but not for a polished commentary.
Exactly. It just kills the impact. You can't make a serious point about legislative failure if it's sandwiched between a stock ticker and a Democrat jihadi comment. The gravity is just gone.
Okay, so the listener can't process the argument. How do we strengthen that? The obvious suggestion is thematic clustering, right? Grouping things together.
Yeah, it's really just about narrative buckets. It lets the audience actually digest one idea before you throw another one at them.
So give me a concrete example from the text.
Okay, so that comment, the Dow is over 50,000, it's dropped right in the middle of this really intense Epstein discussion. It feels so jarring.
It trivializes it.
It totally does. So the fix is to take all those Trump administration wins, the jobs numbers, rents falling, murder rates down, and put them all in one segment.
Ah, okay.
You frame that whole section as, say, competence. And then you contrast it with the moral failure of the Epstein stuff. That way the economic wins hit harder because they're all together. And the DOJ critique feels way more focused because you're not getting interrupted by the NASDAQ.
That makes a ton of sense. It actually creates a narrative arc instead of just a list of things.
And you can do the same with the cultural stuff, too. All the culture war bits, like the Canadian shooter and the pronoun discussion, they're just sprinkled in there.
Yeah, right next to the analysis of the SAVE Act.
Which just undercuts the seriousness of it. So the fix is simple. Consolidate it. Make a society and culture section. You can still do the jokes, you can still have that edgy style, but by grouping them, you're telling the listener, okay, we're done with that, now we're talking about law. It creates clear lanes.
All right, moving on to the tone. This is a big one. The creator obviously wants to make a strong case, but the reliance on repetitive insults and shock image, it really undermines their authority.
Yeah, and I wonder if the creator realizes just how much it undermines it. I mean, the script is just littered with retard, Democrat jihadi, cuck. It's constant.
And the violent imagery, trebuchets, scraping skin off.
Right. And the weakness there is that it frames the whole thing as unserious internet rage, not a sharp political critique. It's so easy for anyone, even someone who might agree, to just dismiss it as trolling. If you want to be the nuclear take guy, you have to be surgical, not just loud.
So the goal is to be taken seriously as a commentator. The suggestion then is to replace those schoolyard insults with sharper condemnation that attacks competence and morality, not just the person.
Yes, you can actually be meaner by being smarter. Look at the part about Representative Eric Swalwell. The script calls him a chuckle fuck for complaining about death threats.
Which just sounds petty.
It is. A much better way to do it is to drop the name calling and just frame the critique around the hypocrisy. I mean, the point is actually devastating. You have a public servant demanding concierge security from the DOJ over a tweet while pushing policies the creator says endangers everyone else. That's the real kill shot.
Calling him a cuck just gives him an easy out.
It lets him ignore the argument entirely. And what about the trebuchet stuff?
Yeah, the imagery.
Look, it's supposed to be funny, but it's like a Wile E. Coyote cartoon. To make it stronger, you could pivot to a satirical but policy-focused proposal. Instead of launching them, talk about a logistical efficiency program for deportation.
So you keep the humor.
You keep the edge in the humor, but you're grounding it in something real. It focuses the listener on the absurdity of the policy failure, not just on a mental image of a catapult.
Okay, let's shift to the people being talked about. There's this struggle to maintain a consistent through line on political figures who show up in different contexts.
Yeah, this was a major friction point for me. The opinion on people like Thomas Massey or Pam Bondi just swings wildly depending on what clip is playing. It's confusing.
Right.
So 1 minute Massey is a hero for exposing the redacted Wexner files, and the next you hate his guts for that one nay vote on the SAVE Act.
And same with Bondi.
Exactly. The creator says she should be fired and replaced by a YouTuber, then 5 minutes later is cheering her on for obliterating Jasmine Crockett on crime stats. It leaves the audience thinking, wait, are these people good guys or bad guys?
So the audience needs the rules of the game laid out for them. The suggestion here is to set up a kind of principles over personalities framework right at the top.
That's a great way to put it, because without it, you just sound like you have no core values other than reacting to stuff.
So how would that work with Massey, for example?
Well, for Massey, you could just preface the whole thing by saying something like, look, Massey is a hero on transparency, but he can be an obstructionist on legislation. Just say it.
You set the terms.
You set the terms. That way you can praise him for the Epstein stuff, and the audience isn't shocked when you pivot to criticizing his vote on the SAVE Act. It shows you're nuanced, not just emotionally flipping back and forth.
And what about Pam Bondi? That relationship seemed even more complicated in the script.
It was. So you have to reconcile the two versions of her we see. The concrete way to do it is to categorize her act. You say, look, she is effective at political theater, owning the libs, shutting down Crockett, but she is ineffective at actual justice.
Specifically on Epstein.
Specifically on the Epstein cover-up. That lets the creator enjoy those pop-off moments where she's listing crime stats while still holding the line that she's failing at her main job. It turns a contradiction into a much more sophisticated analysis. The message becomes, don't get distracted by the viral clip. Look at the lack of prosecution.
That's a much higher level of commentary. Okay, finally, let's talk about the use of data. The script wants to be seen as factual, but it often conflates correlation with causation.
Yeah, and this is where the argument is probably at its weakest, persuasion-wise. It presents some raw data or a coincidence, and then treats it like it's absolute proof of a conspiracy, without bridging that logical gap.
Right, it's a bit of a leap.
It's a huge leap, like the map showing that every state Kamala Harris won didn't require voter ID. The creator just says, coincidence? I'll leave that to you. That plays to the base, sure, but it doesn't persuade anyone. It just implies something without doing any of the work.
Okay, so there's a big opportunity for more rigor here. The suggestion is to use the data as a starting point for a question, for an inquiry, rather than a conclusion.
Exactly. You invite the audience to connect the dots with you. With that Kamala map, instead of the wink and nod, you frame it as a serious question about election integrity.
So you'd ask something like,
You ask, why is there 100% overlap between these two data sets? What is it about the legal framework in these states that produces this results that forces even a skeptic to engage with the question instead of just dismissing you as a conspiracy theorist?
And there was that whole bit on the SAVE Act and the argument that married women would be disenfranchised.
Oh yeah, the women are too stupid argument. That was such a missed opportunity. The creator's response is just to call them retarded.
Which, again, is just an insult.
License after you get married is just a standard part of being an adult. You use the analogy from the clip, the one about needing an ID to fly. You ground it in reality. You need an ID to buy a beer. You need one to get on a plane. And yes, if you change your name, you update your paperwork. Then the critique becomes that the opposition is infantilizing women, which is a way more powerful and damaging argument.
So let's just recap the big takeaways. It's really about taking that raw energy and turning it into refined power.
That's a good way to put it.
First, group your themes. Avoid the whiplash. Keep the economic stuff together, the culture stuff together. Second, elevate the vocabulary. Attack hypocrisy and incompetence, not just people. Get rid of the slurs.
Right. Be sharper. Third, be consistent with your critiques of figures like Macy and Bondi. Set up that principles over personalities framework.
And finally, use your data to ask smart questions, not just to hint at conspiracy. Drive inquiry.
If you do all that, you're not just ranting anymore, you're building a real commentary.
Exactly. You've got the voice and the passion. This is about adding the discipline. We encourage you to apply these shifts to the next script.
I am genuinely looking forward to seeing the next draft. The potential here is huge.
And please, submit the revised work for a follow-up. Thanks for listening.